Everybody, and welcome to the series, Mind Hacks to Actually Reach Your Goals. This series was designed to be about 8 to 10 minutes a day over the period of time, a few weeks, to literally go through what are the practical steps that we need to take our lives from where we are to where we got to be. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started. Okay, everybody, welcome back to Hacking Your Mind, Achieve Your Goals. Episode 13, Back to the Cue. That's what we're going to talk today. Back to the cue. Back to the cue. Okay, remember we spoke about cues? Cues, we spoke earlier about this idea. Try to find that what you do already, the structure, right? If you get up anyways, great cue. You don't got to make a cue happen. You're making a routine. You're trying to create a new habit. You don't got to make everything. So if you can find a cue, something you're already doing, and then use the cue that you're already doing, you're already going to the office, you're already going to the store, you're already doing things, just if it connected to something more positive, and now you're doing it anyways. But we got to nail this down. What's a cue? A cue is a trigger. So I want to sort of get underneath it for a few minutes with you now. What's supposed to happen in your brain is that, remember we spoke earlier about this idea of myelin. Remember the myelin stuff? Remember that? We spoke about how what your brain does is it says, oh, okay, if you're doing a bunch of behaviors or actions together, I'll throw a little sort of plastic, it's not really plastic, but sort of frame around it, right? Remember the iPhone plug, right? So if you're gonna go out reach the cereal box, I'll take the movements of spoon in the thing, back to the mouth, right? I'll take all those and make it quicker. And if you keep on doing those if you do those three moves together again and again and again, I'll know the brain says that all goes into one group. So I'll put a little bit of myelin, a little, substance on it so that it goes quicker and quicker and quicker, right? Swing it back, right? So think through that. So think of it like cue, routine, and reward needs to be super quick. And then your brain will go, boom, I got it. So you want your cue really to get you to go from cue to routine pretty quickly, right? And it gets you right in there, and that'll use less brain power, right? That's the whole point. The point is to use as little discipline as possible to be able to get your stuff done. So the more it gets automated into your brain, the easier it's going to be for you to do. So like we said earlier, if you find the cue that you do already, easy, just connect it. But what if you don't? Or what if you do, but you want to make it work better? So here's how you do it. Number one, start whenever you're in your cue, whenever the cue is, try to make the cue as easy as possible, right? If your cue is when I get up at 5 and you're getting up at 9, it's going to be super hard, right? If your cue is when I go to the other room, when you're in this room, it's going to be harder, right? Try to find things that allow you to, that's easy, that is easy. That's not going to require time and attention. Let me give you an example. Again, I'm using these as examples only because they're easy. You want to go out and exercise, okay? Let's say you have a treadmill in the house. Let's make this easy, okay? You want to go on the treadmill, but you can't do it. Fine. But you can't put on your sneakers, right? That doesn't require any exhaustion, right? Sneakers don't require exhaustion, right? You're putting on sneakers. Now, you can tell yourself, I'm going to go put on my sneakers. That's the cue. The routine is the treadmill. So by getting your sneakers on every day or getting your sneakers on and walking to the treadmill, what that's doing is it's providing a cue that sets up the routine called the treadmill. And so even if you don't end up on the treadmill every time, or you only end up for a few minutes at a time, what you're doing is you're trying to build a trigger you're going to easily do, which is getting your shoes on, getting your sneakers on, because your brain will go, all right, they're on already. Let's get to the treadmill, right? So what you want to do is you want to A, find cues that you're already doing, or B, find cues that are easy to do. That's not going to be really hard. It's not going to be super difficult to get to that cue. You want your cue to be as easy as you can. So if you want to study something, right? And then in the morning you wake up, you want to study something, but at night you put the book right in front of you, right? You schedule the meeting so someone's calling you versus you're calling them. That's if you want every day to have a meeting with your assistant or with your colleagues on, a matter so that you're up to date, or that you're doing your emails and you can't get it done. Someone's calling you. So the cue begins in an easier way because the call's coming in. You don't got to make the phone call, right? Or you set a shortcut on your phone so the call happens automatically, right? Think through the routine and then say to yourself, I want something to get me into that routine that's going to be much easier so that as soon as that comes in, it begins, right? Cues can be really powerful because what cues do is they bring you into the mindset. There's a great article about swimmers, about professional Olympic swimmers. And what they do, if you ever watched a swim meet, was you'll find that like they're very in the zone. A lot of times the reason why they're in the zone is because what they're teaching them, and runners are the same way. These athletes that have very short duration competitions, right? Basketball players and football players, they're playing sports for weeks and months. But Olympic athletes, I remember once reading this whole book about them. It's really scary. And if you're out there, Olympic athlete, God bless you. There's a whole book that I remember reading. I think it was called The Price of Gold. I don't remember what it was. They made a documentary on it. It's the pressure of an Olympic athlete who spends 4 years training for sometimes 2 minutes, right? So think about that. If you're a professional athlete, you play ball, and it's 8 months a year, right? You're an Olympic athlete. You run once, through it twice, 4 times. Your whole life is going to be determinant. It's incredibly high pressuring. So what they do with them is they actually build them routines. They build them cues. So they have them listen to the same music and do the same pregame routine and put on their clothes the same way. So what's happening is their brain hears the song and goes, we're swimming. So it takes them in the headspace from the locker room all the way to the meet. So when they're not standing at the meet going, oh my gosh, freaking out, right? The cues will take you right through it. And it's easier and less daunting to put on your headphones in a locker room by yourself than get into the headspace on a board jumping into a pool. Same thing with you in life. Find cues that you don't mind doing. Find cues that you do already. Easy cues, and connect them to the routine so that it'll be easier for you to get to the cue. And once you're in the cue, you're already starting the routine. You're already getting there. Now, one other thing that's super important when it comes to building a cue, you have to, in the beginning especially, take a moment and anticipate the reward. Remember, your brain can't tell the difference between that which is imagined and that which is real. Right? So let's use an easy example. There's a smoothie that takes place after the run. Easy, right? You think about the taste of the smoothie, both how it tastes and also the feeling of satisfaction. Great. Win-win. When you get to putting on your sneakers, take a moment and picture the taste of the smoothie. Because your brain will connect in the core, the cue to the reward. It'll Pavlovian it. It'll already be anticipating. It'll crave the reward. Think about the feeling of telling your friend that you did it. Think about what it feels like to check off one more day. Think of the feeling of finishing that spiritual exercise, that ritual, that command, whatever the thing is that you want to do. When you think of the end. That happens all the time. You're going to do something very difficult in any area of your life, and you're engaged in it or you're about to do it, and it's hard. Think of what it's going to feel like when it's over, when you've passed your test, when you've done your job, when you've done the routine, when you've finished this thing, and now you're at the end. And if you've ever had that satisfaction before, you can go back to something in your history in your brain and go, remember how awesome that felt, and bring it back up. Now, what's important is that your brain will have it somewhere, but you can bring it to your consciousness and savor it. And what that's doing is it's creating a stronger connection now. It's a much stronger connection. So if you had a moment of pleasure because you finished something and you felt amazing, and now you're starting this next new thing, or you're at the beginning of your routine and you're picturing, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this pleasure at the end of it. And I'm going to get this incredible pleasure when I'm done completely because I'm studying every day a chapter of X. And at the end, I'll finish the thing, right? By creating a moment in your pregame. Remember, this is what your cue feels like. You're getting up, you're at your bed, you're at your desk, you're putting on your shoes, you're opening up your books, all that thing that you're doing, that easy stuff, what you should be thinking about is the anticipation of the reward, that feeling of what it's going to feel like when you're done the reward. And by anticipating the reward during the cue phase, you've now connected the dots. You see it now? You've got a cue that is as easy as you can, that's already in a structured part of your day, that has anticipated the benefit, so it now craves it. You've got a reward that is either going to be socially accepted or internal inspiration or some immediate gratification. And all you got to do is to have all this pleasure. Remember, we're pleasure seekers. It's just do the routine. And if your routine is not incredibly difficult, if it's 1%, right? If it's a little bit hard, you'll say, oh, for sure, I'll do that. And by structuring these together, you'll do it. And if you do this at the same time again and again and again and again, it'll get quicker and quicker and quicker until one day you'll need so much less energy and so much less mental difficulty. Remember what we spoke about ego depletion. The discipline that requires to get this done will go down and down and down because it becomes automatic into your brain. Okay, we'll talk a little more about that next time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped. I hope it really made a difference in your life. And for those that tagged us on social media and shared it, for those that left a podcast review, for those that shared it with your friends, shared it on your status, we appreciate it. It means a lot to us that you felt comfortable enough to share this with others of people that you care about. If you missed a day, make sure to check out the show notes for the link to the entire series. You can join us on the Unlocking Greatness Insider community by going to charlieharari.com/insiders. And we look forward to hearing your feedback on Instagram and on Twitter and YouTube and WhatsApp and everything else. But really, really appreciate your time and attention and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again.